Hello guys, hope you're all well. Been far too long, as I always say. Having a bit of chat to Sir Lallington already. Hope you're doing well. Hello Lonnie. So you took the gamble then, Sir Lallington. Hope you did a little bit of sort of research on your own and didn't just go by my video alone. But I do like the look of them. Didn't end up actually getting my buy-in really, so I've just sort of switched the Hive blockchain over to CleanSpark, but I did actually want to buy sort of at least a few thousand in Trading 212, sort of selling some of the bond money, but there you go. I've got 250 quid's worth, I think. Just dipping your toes in, that's good. That's good. As I say, 18-month hold, you know, it's up 25%, but with what we're all hoping Bitcoin can do in the next couple of years, and as I say, can only dream what it could be. You want to get the XRP case settled as well, yeah, that'll be hopefully positive. A lot of people sort of saying we could get a Bitcoin ETF, a spot ETF finally off the back of that, but we wouldn't get hopes up too much. They seem to want to avoid that at all costs. But even just for a sort of legitimizing crypto, that would be good to get that out of the way. Oh, Spencer, first time caller. Yes, welcome. Drop any questions you got in the chat. Have a chat with the guys. Evening, Marty. Hold on to you, sir. You look forward to watching their videos every week. That's too kind. Too kind. Yeah, so just seeing the news regarding CleanSpark, speaking of yesterday's video, they have made a very, very large purchase. So 145 million worth of miners from Bitmain. So these are the new cream of the crop, from what I understand, the Antminer S19 XP. They've given up with the sort of S19J Pro Plus, I think they were calling the latest ones. A little bit silly. Super XP Special Edition. Yeah, bit crazy, but they're still the S19. And yeah, the first 25,000 miners will arrive in batches throughout August, and all deployed by the end of the year. So this has taken them from, so they're at 6.7, they've got another 2.44 sort of already purchased and being up and running later this quarter in Washington, and then this is another 6.3 exahash. So it sort of takes them to about 15 or so, depending on sort of when they get operational. Yeah, and the Bitcoin mining network in total sits at 322 exahash. So that would be 5% of the hash rate, which is incredible, really, for sort of such a small market cap company. So even with today's rise, they are 242 million, which seems crazy to me. Bitfarm's up as well, 262, and I presume Riot blockchain, Riot platforms are up even more. Yep, 17%, as they always are, more than CleanSpark and Bitfarms, but I sort of think long term this will sort of even out, basically. You know, the exahash is really what matters, and when they start sort of mining an equivalent amount of Riot on a consistent basis, then it should even out. But over 2 billion now for Riot Platforms, and Marathon 1.74 billion. So they're basically all up 15% today on what is not a particularly big rise in Bitcoin, really. Sort of 3.36% on the day, 30,200. So, as I say, crazy to think what we could be next year at sort of $70,000 Bitcoin, admittedly after the halving, but yeah, if you can go this much up on $1,500, could do well. Lonnie, has your Baidu thesis changed at all for this year? Not particularly. It's in their sort of most recent quarterly report. It's still very much a sort of, I call it the other bets section of Google, basically. Their sort of other bets is a much larger portion of the company. So your sort of self-driving cars and AI side and that sort of thing is sort of, they are other bets for Google, but Baidu it is sort of a lot more of the main business. But things still seem to be going well. People, tout the Tesla AI and that sort of thing a hell of a lot, and the self-driving cars. But Baidu have cars on the road as a robo-taxi, taking payments, I believe, now. So I can't see how the sort of Tesla idea that they're 5 years ahead of the competition can really hold weight. So yeah, for Baidu, such a small company still in comparison to the other tech. What are we at? 50 billion? Yeah, right on 50 billion. So crazy, really. But yeah, it's difficult to sort of look at their numbers because they're still all over the place. And sometimes they're in, here they're in US dollars, but sort of in the financial section they're in renminbi. But yeah, sort of this year 978 and next year 1128 potentially. So getting good again on $136 share price, still with a hefty net cash balance. So you could knock sort of 20% really off this share price if you really want to sort of net the cash off. Yeah, the thesis hasn't really changed. It's just not something that I'm looking to buy right away. Maybe with some of this crypto money down the line, we'll see. Mardy, is there any way the threshold of 85k to be increased in terms of financial compensation? I can't see them increasing it, to be honest. I mean, the US get $250,000, but ours seems to have been pretty much fixed at that for quite a while. I guess not going up with inflation. Yeah, if your banking institution went into liquidation, then that is what you would get. In a bank account, of course. I still think I'm not too worried about sort of the stock side of trading 2-on-2, for example, going bust. I can't see them going bust, but even if they did, then I'm fairly happy that the money is in client-held accounts. So I would just get probably an Interactive Brokers account with those same stocks in, basically. Does the potential of the US dollar not being the world reserve currency affect my portfolio if the majority of companies are American? Yeah, I mean, I would say the majority of mine are sort of not American. I do have quite a bit of American, but yeah, I do sort of diversify quite a bit around. I think I'm quite heavy overweight in the UK, even though I'm not sort of particularly bullish on the UK. It's just we have a lot of stocks that I like, sort of commodities and, well, yeah, mainly commodities really, but sort of base metal commodities, and then Shell, or BP at the moment for the next month. But yeah, I wouldn't be sort of too heavy in America. I don't hold the sort of S&P 500 ETF as a lot of people do. And yeah, my sort of American holdings aren't really all that big. They're sort of specialist holdings in particular, you know, things like Stellantis. It's an American listed company, but really they're not sort of all that American. A great deal of their revenue is Europe and abroad. So yeah, I wouldn't like to be heavy America. No interest in Algorand. A lot of people mention it. I sort of do a little jokey TikTok video every now and then, and whenever I put the crypto video up, I often get people sort of talking about Algorand and one or two other coins, Hedera, Hashgraph. Yeah, it seems a reasonably solid project, but I haven't sort of seen all that much, you know, real world brands sort of go to them. One or two, but yeah, I just kind of prefer things like Solana, and I mean, I do hold Cardano. I keep wondering sort of whether their slow but right approach is sort of what people say is really the way. It's sort of, we might take a bit longer than everyone else, but when we finish, it'll be perfect. Not entirely sure, but we'll see. You have VHYL as your ETF. Yeah, that's not sort of one that I've ever been keen on, really. I sort of look at the long-term returns, and it just doesn't seem to perform as well as the market. I think sort of going. I mean, it's even in the name high yield, and yet it's not high yield. You know, you can actually get more of a yield on sort of short-term bonds at the moment. It's sort of, I think, 3.5%. So wouldn't really call it high yield. It's more yield with a bit of growth. But yeah, I think I would rather sort of hold the broad market and then specific companies, really. Marty, if I'm not mistaken, your trading platform keeps their accounts with a UK bank, and you have a UK bank with the same one. My portfolio and bank account could value at 260k. Yes, so that would be the cash on your trading account. So, you know, if you've got 100k in stocks and 5k in available cash, then it's the cash that is covered by the bank, really. And then, you know, the stocks would, I guess, in a bust scenario, the stocks should go to interactive brokers, and you would just, I would imagine, get a sort of grandfathered account at interactive brokers, and then in theory, if they didn't have enough to pay out, the FSCS would pay out your 5k on whichever bank they use. I'm not sure, can't remember what bank it is they use. I did look before, but it's FSCS protected, so whoever that would be is where you would get your 5k, as I understand. Spencer, VUAG, VUKG, and VEEV, your ETFs. That's the safety net, is it? I'm not familiar with a couple of those. What was the VUAG? So that, yeah, that's S&P, and then what have you got there? VUKG, that's the UK one, I take it, and then Developed World. I've been trying to get people onto Developed World more than the VWRL All World, just because it's sort of a cheaper way of having the main countries, and then you can have emerging markets if you want a little bit of emerging markets. But so have you then got no emerging markets at all, Spencer? So IGNL. Have I got that one wrong? IGNL? You have to let us know what the IGNL one is. Quant, a lot of people seem to be quite bullish on. Need to do more research. Yeah, it's sort of a little bit like Cardano, really. It's sort of people quote, videos from them, and people like the Bank of England saying that they're considering using them, but it's a video from a year ago, and you don't really seem to see a lot of developments sort of recently, or any developments seem to take a long while. I guess if they're going after CBDC, sort of central bank digital currencies, then this sort of thing does take a lot of time to get up and running, and it sort of may not mean use of the sort of quant token, for example, right away. But yeah, I do like the platform. Do you know any platforms that allow me to buy Cathay Pacific? Ooh. I normally, for this sort of thing, go to my Interactive Brokers account, because I always find they seem to have pretty much anything you want. So Cathay, just having a look on my phone. Cathay Pacific Airways, are they? So where are they from? Looks like it's on there. Cathay Pacific Airways, 783, 784. Yeah, it looks like they're on there. I would say Interactive Brokers, they do seem to have, yeah, so it is an airline. Yeah, I mean, it's worth, if you've got an ISA sort of elsewhere, maybe get just a GIA with Interactive Brokers, and for these sort of awkward stocks, you can maybe go with them. If you haven't got an ISA, then you could always get an ISA with Interactive Brokers. I'm still waiting to transfer mine to them. I think this year we'll still be trading 212, but hopefully I can have a Interactive Brokers one soon. Oh, you don't have any emerging markets? That's odd. I'm sort of fairly keen on emerging markets, but I get that they're not for everyone. Oh, IGLN. Oh, physical gold. Yeah. Yeah, that's fair enough. People like to have sort of a little safety net there. I think the strategy of millionaire investors is they make their money in single stocks and then put them in ETFs and high dividend stocks to maintain. Yeah, that would sort of be partly my strategy, really, or sort of making money in crypto and then putting it into less risky stocks, and sort of probably ETFs. I have sort of said once I'm out of crypto, hopefully in the next couple of years, that I would like ideally to be about 40 to 50% ETFs. So I've sort of showed my mix of how I would like to be before, and yeah, it's sort of a mishmash of all around the world, really. A little bit of US, but not overweight US, and then yeah, sort of bit of Europe, bit of this, bit of that, and then sort of 60% individual stocks. So that would be my thinking as well. Big news day tomorrow as well. We've got the core CPI from the US. Rather interestingly, they're saying the consensus is increase year on year by 0.4% monthly. So I guess last year's was maybe 0.3%, for example. So this month is a bit less than last month, but if it's more than last year, then the yearly can increase. So that's not good. It won't take too well to, any of these numbers increasing. They want them to be quite drastically dropping towards 2%, ideally. It looks like we might get one more 0.25% increase in the May FOMC meeting, which a lot of people weren't expecting. I think they kind of thought we'd certainly, maybe not be cutting for a good while, but certainly paused where we are now. But if they go to 5.25%, that is really sort of sticking the knife in. And what else we got sort of later in the week? Not all that much. Minutes, and I never really sort of count, Fed members speaking as sort of hugely important. And yeah, the minutes, it's quite old news now. When the minutes come out, it's of a sort of a meeting 4 or 5 weeks ago. So yeah, they sort of discussed their decision at the FOMC meeting on the day, and you hear from Powell. So to hear the exact inner workings of the meeting 5 weeks later, I just don't really see as all that helpful. What else we got? Bit of production data and bits and pieces, nothing too much. UK GDP, 0.1%. The hugely growing nation that we are. And then job numbers and a load of nothing, really. So, yeah, it is really all on tomorrow. See what the CPI number is, and then it'll give a good idea as to what we can expect in May in the interest rate rise. Wish we had an almanac. Go back in time. Yeah, exactly. Could have done all sorts of things. Spencer, thanks for the tip. Interactive brokers. Yes, I do quite like them. Horrible, awful interface. It just looks horrendous, especially on the desktop. But even on the phone, you can sort of barely see what you've bought and what your portfolio value is. But if you want, at the bottom line, if you can sort of find out how to use it and get used to it, maybe personalize it a bit sort of the way you would like it, then they do kind of have everything you would want and sort of are cheaper than a lot of the competition. I expect for smaller accounts, Trading 212 is still going to be your cheapest broker. But yeah, for your sort of competition for people like HL that do, a lot more of a range than Trading 212, then interactive brokers just smash them, basically. You really see Cathay Pacific rising up again in the long term with the third runway, and that they survive on just freight. Yeah, I've never really sort of looked at airlines in any great detail. People just sort of constantly go on about IAG in the UK because it's, way below the share price that it used to be. But I think they're sort of forgetting the amount of dilution and debt that has gone on, and not quite realising, you've got to look at market cap, not just share price. But yeah, never sort of looked at, the foreign ones, your sort of Lufthansa, and I guess that's as you say, a Hong Kong one. But, yeah, interesting. Buffett has bought Diageo again. Really? Basically his only UK holding, isn't it? I do like the sort of motley fool, 10 stocks that Buffett could buy. And obviously there's nothing stopping him buying them. So why hasn't he bought them? It's obviously not stocks that Buffett would buy. It's just they think they're his types of stocks. But they do love to sort of wheel out his face and try and pretend that they're Buffett-style stocks. So I'm still looking at silver miners, especially given now crypto has started to move, and I may sort of, unless I want to suddenly FOMO into CleanSpark, sort of at these prices. I was hoping to get it for 240. I could FOMO in, I suppose, and just think, well, in a couple of years, I'm hoping it's going to be, $30, $40. Then doesn't really matter whether you're getting at 240 or 310. But yeah, I kind of think maybe leave it or maybe wait for a pullback. So I'm looking at the silver miners again. Sort of seeing this as maybe I'll just go a little bit more defensive. Plus, it's a bet on the sort of green revolution, as they say. Solar and EVs and all that sort of thing use a great amount of silver. And if gold's going up as well, then silver would normally sort of go up on that. So I think of it as sort of multiple potential upsides and not very much supply. But it's just whether I go for Pan American or First Majestic or Fortuna Silver Mines is sort of one of the others that I'm quite keenly looking at. Pan American do seem to be sort of reasonably good value. They're making a very large acquisition, so trying to sort of model their future revenue and profits, based on their current mines and the new mines at sort of similar to Bitcoin, really. If we get to, say, $2,300 gold and sort of $30, $40 maybe in silver, you can sort of model in theory what profit they could be making in, a year's time, 2 years' time, and sort of think, yeah, maybe even on sort of silver miners you could be getting a 3 or 4x potentially. So it's not just crypto. Obviously you can go for a tiny little sort of penny stock on silver and easily make those sort of returns, but that's a bit too risky for me. Not really into that sort of thing. Buffett must know something. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he does. I mean, he doesn't even buy much of anything else foreign, does he? Sort of had his weird little, whether it was him or his other guys, had his little dabble in Taiwan Semiconductor, and then very quickly got out and didn't do too well on that trade from the looks of it. But yeah, he is basically 100% American, which always strikes me as a bit too patriotic. Thoughts on premium bonds, chances of winning the monthly prize? I do think it's depends on the tax that you pay and sort of how much money you really want to hold in cash, because you get your sort of, if you're a basic rate taxpayer, you get your £1,000 interest free, and sort of looking at current sort of quick instant access savings accounts, which is what I guess you've got to think of premium bonds as. I think you can get the money within sort of 3 or 4 days, so it's it's not fixed like your sort of 1 year fixed rate savings. Yeah, it's a decent account, really. I think they're sort of saying the optimum amount to really put in and get the interest rate they advertise is about £20,000. Obviously, if you put 1,000 in, then you're quite unlikely to be getting 3.3%. We near enough can't, because there are only £25 prizes, so you would either get 2.5% or 5% or nothing, or the million, of course. But yeah, the more you have in, the closer you are going to get to sort of 3.3% in theory over probably a couple of year period. I think you can take 1 year period and maybe get 1% and sort of think these are rubbish, but I think if you hold sort of 2, 3, 4 years on average, you're more likely to get your sort of 3.3%, I think it is at the moment. But then, yeah, as you say, it's all of the prizes tax free, rather than sort of, you can get 4.5%, I think, on fixed rate savings accounts, which isn't really fair to compare. You would really have to compare easy access savings accounts. but then you would get taxed as well. So unless you can make sort of use, if you haven't got that much, I mean, I put I've got the little Barclays rainy day saver, and you can put up to £5,000 in there, and you sort of get 5.14%, I think it is. So yeah, I don't really hold a huge amount in cash, and that sort of suits me really. I move money in and out of it, and you get 5%, just over 5%. So yeah, premium bonds I've never really sort of had a huge use for. Maybe down the line, if I want to sort of hold a reasonable cash position, then I would stick it in there, because sort of 4 or 5% on 50 grand isn't particularly attractive if you then get taxed on it. So yeah, there is that, but it's not one for me at the moment. Will ETH overtake Bitcoin? That's, I guess, something that I've taken a little gamble on recently. I sort of used the capital gains tax allowance to move a little bit into ETH from Bitcoin. So I'm sort of down from 5 to 4.6 Bitcoin and up to my ETH position. I do think it potentially has a chance to in the future if they can keep building. Obviously, layer 2s and more things being built, in theory, raises the Ethereum price as well, if it's all built on top of Ethereum, where Bitcoin really just has the sort of store of value buyers to it, and anything that can be built on sort of Lightning Network. And I'm not really keen on this sort of new ordinals, NFTs and that sort of thing on Bitcoin. I kind of think leave that to other chains. So yeah, if crypto really takes off, could certainly see Ethereum overtaking it. And you can stake it and earn a little bit of yield as of tomorrow at midnight. Maybe not, have to wait for the bugs to be ironed out and maybe give it a month or so. But yeah, be interesting to see. And whether we get a huge drop in Ethereum as they're all predicting. So, trying to still update my CleanSpark valuation. I do need to sort of go through and double check these figures, so my sort of direct costs and depreciation and that sort of thing. Obviously, if they're, I've put added 70% on at the moment to their, I think this was their most recent quarter indirect costs. So I guess if they're going from 6.7 exahash to 16, maybe it will be more than that, but then you've got energy prices coming down as well. So as I sort of said in the video, it's a little bit of a stab in the dark, some of these figures, and they can make rather a lot of difference. I suppose, if you change these to, say, 175 million in direct costs, then, yeah, you go from sort of $40 to $35 on the bull case. But as I say, all of these figures certainly on the 100k band here are over 10x in share price in sort of 18 months to 2 years. So I think even in the worst case scenario, you could be looking at sort of a 10x. Change these to 175 million in direct costs, change the share count to 300 million with an awful lot of dilution, and yeah, you get 1788. So what, we sort of 8x there. I'd take 8x in 2 years, to be honest. Even if, as I say, this is a less than a 4x in Bitcoin price, and it'd be tax free in the ISA, so that's always nice. And if they don't need all the dilution, and costs maybe do not rise quite as much as what I was thinking, then $40. But you have to be prepared for it to go down. Any AI stocks other than a little bit of Google that I hold and Baidu? Not really. I don't really sort of go for anything too small. Yeah, it's not really an area that I'm that keen on. I have made my extremely unsuccessful bet on 3x short Nvidia, so that hasn't gone well at all. I didn't really bank on AI kicking off quite this hard. And yeah, now it's sort of 80% down. It's at like 300 quid. I thought I might as well just leave it there and see if they have a rough quarter and things drop, or we get a sort of reasonable sized recession. Then yeah, we'll see what happens. But aside from that, not really any AI stocks. What about you? OMB, have you thought about what would happen if the custodian, not the broker, went bust? Would you spread a large portfolio between brokers? How do you mean the custodian? As if, like, if Interactive Brokers went bust? Or sort of, yeah, how do you mean the custodian? I would think you've only really got sort of the bank holding the cash and then the broker holding the stocks, really. I suppose you can have, you know, people like, if you're holding ETFs, you could have Vanguard ETFs on, you know, trading 212 as a broker. I can't really see anything happening to Vanguard, for example. So Lallington, you're in crypto AGIX. Yeah, I can't really get involved in the crypto AI projects, to be honest. It seems crazy. You're sort of going up against, you know, Microsoft and Google and big tech, basically. It seems an uphill battle to me. I know people are sort of very, very keen on things like Fetch AI and decentralized AI, basically, but I don't know. It seems a little bit hypey and not something that I wanted to get in on. I'm sure it has potential, but so what's AGIX? Is this going to be some sort of outside of the top 1,000? Oh, no. Number 87, that's fair enough. Bigger than Fetch AI, I think, isn't it? When did it come out? 20. Yeah, so that's the launch. I guess it's sort of a VC drop, as a lot of them are. And then sort of did reasonably well in the... So it peaked in... Or is the chart looking a little bit dodgy? Yeah, the chart's just looking awkward here. So, yeah, peaked in 2021, 48 cents, now 41 cents, so doing reasonably well. Bottomed out at sort of 4 cents, so already up 10x from the bottom. I guess that's why it's number 87, rank 87. Is it 60%? Yeah, 60% circulating supply of total supply, so it's not one of those constant sort of inflation dumpers. Not too bad, I guess. What do they say about them? Create, share and monetize AI services. So they're not trying to rival sort of Google and Nvidia then for sort of, well, not Nvidia I suppose, but Google and OpenAI then. It's for, is it like creating things built with things like ChatGPT and Bard? Is that the idea? pioneered the development of an AI which is described as the world's most expressive robot. Yes, lovely. I'm sort of very, very sceptical of when I look at these sort of things. Founded by a team of AI scientists, developers, researchers, and engineers. Well, it's, as I say, it's in the top 100, so they're clearly doing well. What was Fetch in the end then? I thought they were outside. Yeah, 127. So, see these mentioned a lot on YouTube, like sort of Altcoin Daily, and yeah. So again, reasonable circulating supply to total supply. It's not going to suddenly be dumping, 50% on you all the time. And yeah, very similar sort of charts, up not 10x certainly, not like Singularity, but up a reasonable amount from the bottom and doing pretty well. But yeah, I will stay skeptical, I think. I'll probably end up missing it and buying in sort of when it becomes a sort of more established platform. Yeah. So drop any more questions you got in the chat, and if not, maybe we'll call it a short one. I do want to read a bit more about this CleanSpark buy. It's sort of come out of nowhere the day after I do my video. It's a hell of a lot of cash. They said they wanted to spend 210 to 280 million in capex this year, and they've sort of near enough spent all of that, I think, with this and the previous purchase. Can't remember how much it was for the 2.44 exahash. They said they'd already bought the miners, but I imagine there's some costs sort of associated with that as well, still to be done. So I still don't see them diluting, $500 million as they were saying they were going to. And with Bitcoin rocketing up, they should be able to spend some of their sort of monthly income on this as well. Hence the bullishness. Everyone's getting sort of fearful, I think, still of 300 million shares or $500 million, depending on what they end up doing in dilution. And some people just don't understand sort of the idea of good dilution. It's a bit like good debt. A mortgage in theory is good debt, and you can have good dilution if it's the money is being spent better than the amount they've diluted you, which in theory it is. So basically, customer funds are supposed to be segregated from a broker and held by a custodian. But what if funds are not segregated or the custodian goes bust? So I thought they, on the back end, Trading 212 hold your money in an Interactive Brokers account. Basically, that's who actually holds the stocks themselves. So, Interactive Brokers are sort of by some metrics the biggest broker in the world, as I understand. So I don't really see too much of an issue with them going bust. So I would think they are the custodian. And then, you're trusting that, Trading 212 aren't sort of pulling an FTX and spending your money as opposed to just spending their own money. Whether everyone's shares would just be pooled in one great big account as opposed to held in proper sort of client money accounts. I always kind of think if you have those doubts, serious doubts about your broker, then it's probably best not to be with that broker at all. I'm kind of comfortable that basically the stocks are held in a client money account with Interactive Brokers, who I would say is the custodian, and if 212 go bust, then you get an Interactive Brokers account. If Interactive Brokers go bust, then probably the whole world is collapsing, and maybe I'll be glad I got my Bitcoin. Is it prudent to have several brokers? Long term, I'm looking to have two. Ideally, I would have, although admittedly they are the same. If you know, as I sort of count Interactive Brokers as the custodian of Trading 212, I'm looking to have Trading 212 and an Interactive Brokers account to, you know, as I said to Spencer, sort of hold the awkward things like I hold the Hong Kong shares of Baidu and Alibaba. So yeah, I would actually have one custodian, but I'm not too bothered about that. And then they, you know, if one of them's down, then the other one may not be down. I guess if Interactive Brokers went down, then Trading 212 would probably have a bit of an issue. Maybe I'd get a third, sort of long term, but it wouldn't really be for the thought of them going bust. It would be for, you know, different features that they provide and sort of being unable to buy if one's down for maintenance or something like that. Lonnie, any further thoughts on buying Shell or BP? I haven't seen any particular reason to keep my BP holding. I will probably be switching that back to Shell, I believe at the end of the month. As far as adding any more, I'm not sort of super keen to be adding sort of. You've got your natural gas price at near enough, you know, multi-decade lows, so I guess that won't bode too well for them. And oil, sort of not exactly particularly high, and you know, Shells and BPs are near enough not all-time high share price, but you know, last sort of the post-COVID share price high. And any thoughts on Process for the next 1 or 2 years? I mean, that's going to largely depend on Tencent, which I think can do well. Their portfolio can do well of things, you know, things like the larger holdings in their portfolio. I'm still not 100% sure whether they hold 4% of Tesla anymore. But, you know, if they do, everyone's expecting Tesla to do really well. So then Tencent would do well off that, and Process would do well off that. As far as their sort of, you know, buybacks and I'll trade you a little bit of Naspers and you buy a little bit of Process, that's all just seems to be trying to unlock the discount, which they might do at some point, I guess. And their sort of, you know, food delivery services and that sort of thing, I kind of think is a bit of a bonus, really. If some of those can take off and do reasonably well, then that would be a nice little bonus. I do wonder whether to just take the hit and buy some Tencent Direct and just get rid of Process, but yeah, we'll see. Somebody said told me about the Clean Spark news. Interesting. Yes, I will respond to them, but I've just read it. Had a 6 cents on Clean Spark. I mean, yeah, I wasn't expecting this sort of sudden move. As I say, I was kind of expecting it to be dropping. I mean, I was in the red on Clean Spark in the last couple of days. I paid $2.75, I think, on Trading 212, and then $2.65 for my large position on IG Brokers, and then it was $2.40, so I was down 10% within a day, and then yeah, now it's very, very green. NB, wasn't there a broker that went bust a few years ago where the cost to retrieve customer funds meant that not all money was returned? I guess you can get that if they're in debt and, you know, they've sort of done maybe a bit of funny business with some of the client funds and I guess, admin, if there isn't a lot of cash on the books and there's a lot of admin to repatriate the funds to people, then you may not get everything. If sort of administrators come in, you have to pay the administrators first. But I don't see that with Trading 212. It's a profitable business, and they don't sort of appear to hold very much debt. So, yeah, I can't see anything sort of too bad happening with them. And Interactive Brokers seem to be in a reasonable sort of financial position as well. So I would think if they went bust, you'd be fine. Not financial advice, of course. Hello, VRL. Yes, I am now in CleanSpark. Not quite as much as I would have hoped for a couple of days ago when they were $2.44. I was hoping to buy a bit more, but yeah, what will be will be. It's now on the way up. Could be temporarily, it could always come back. Thoughts on EQIX? Not one I've heard of. EQIX. Oh, Equinix, yeah. Yeah, so this is one of the sort of very, very large, Stag Industrial and Tritax big box competitors, if I'm right in thinking. Them and Prologis. Oh, so, yeah, sort of a digital realty trust competitor. Yeah, it's not one that I've looked at too much. I do like Seeking Alpha, just to have a quick look at their sort of forward FFO. So do they show that? So, see, look, price to FFO of 33. I mean, it's just huge. I can't be paying that for a REIT when you've got, Digital Realty Trust. I appreciate it may be a worse portfolio and they've got more debt, and Equinix is a bit more premium, sort of similar to Prologis. But, Digital Realty Trust at sort of a forward P to FFO of 13 compared to 33. I just think I'd rather buy the value, to be honest. Could be a wrong move, but I'm not generally one for paying up for quality, as they say. But that would be my thoughts. Smash that like button. Blarney, shame the process dividend is so low. Yeah, I know they don't seem to always pay out the dividends as well. Sort of Tencent did a reasonably big dividend of, I can't remember what it was, whether it was the Meituan shares or JD.com, and then I don't think Process paid it out. I think they've done buybacks and fiddling around with Naspers and their shares and that sort of thing. So you sometimes get a rise in Process without a rise in Tencent, and that is probably why it's happening. But yeah, I'm not really in it for the dividend too much. Zim International Shipping, yeah, it's a lot of people still sort of interested in that. I've had a look a few times, but never really seemed one I was particularly interested in. I appreciate, it's not just about the dividend, it's about potentially, shipping prices and that sort of thing coming back to higher than pre-COVID, but lower than they were, and it still being good value overall. But yeah, not one for me. Very sort of unknown what would happen. Do I stake any of my crypto? I stake Cardano because it's on chain and sort of fairly easy. Really, you can do it in browser. So I think you get about 3% a year from that. I don't stake Ethereum because I never wanted it locked up. We'll wait and see what happens with the upgrade and sort of how easy it all is. But other than that, no, I've never really been keen on your your staking platforms like, Nexo and that sort of thing, and Crypto.com. I sort of used a little bit, but I never staked very much of my tokens on there. So yeah, I prefer to sort of hold it on my own and not have the risk of it going walkabouts with all your Voyagers and Celsius and people like them going bust. TUP's dropped like a brick. Let's see it survive. What's TUP? Tupperware brands. I always see this and think, how the hell can it be, a multi-million dollar company? But I guess people do like it. I just think everywhere, you go into your local shop and there's sort of 3 or 4 different brands of exactly the same thing, just copied, because it's just plastic, you might call it Tupperware, plastic boxes, let's call it, if we're not going to use the brand name. But yeah, I take it we are talking about Tupperware brands. So it's, whoa, yeah, it's dropped 50%. But yeah, not a business that I would be comfortable or confident holding sort of long term. Forward PE essentially of 3, of less than 2 for 2024, but yeah, bit of a value trap potentially, not really one for me. So, coming up to the hour, I think I'll say 2 minutes for any last questions, and yeah, I'll head off. You invested £2 to keep your eye on it. Nice, yeah. I mean, 50% drop in a week. Something pretty rough has happened. Yes, thank you, Spencer. Good to speak to you, as you're a first-time poster. And Cathay Pacific, yeah, the Interactive Brokers account. As I say, you'll have to maybe sort of have a play around with the interface. You can, adjust which columns you want to see and a little bit of the layout, because in sort of standard it does look horrendous. Takes some getting used to, but once you do, I think you may like it. I do have a, if you go on Linktree, if you go on my Linktree in one of the video descriptions, I think you can use my referral link, and I can't remember if you get sort of £100 or something for signing up. But yeah, maybe sort of worth doing. Thank you, Lonnie. Thank you, Sir Lallington. Yes, need to look at the Process Tesla thing. There was an article recently where the sort of Tencent, I can't remember if it was one of the portfolio managers or something. Yeah, he sort of came out and said they're really happy with the way Tesla are progressing. And I thought, I'd heard that they sold it in 2020 or 2019 or something. It seemed weird for them to come out and say they're still really bullish. So if they do own 4% of them, that's a huge stake and a huge part of the market cap. C and MTB should do good. Who's MT? C is Citibank, I take it, and M&T Bank. I can't get into the banks, to be honest. It's never something that I held a little bit of Bank of Nova Scotia, and because sort of from what I gather, the Canadian banks are a little bit more secure than the others. But yeah, I got out of them, and that, I'm a crypto fan, so holding banks is sort of the enemy. But yeah, I would just stay away from them. But a lot of people do like them, and I can see buying JP Morgan and that sort of thing. But yeah, I'll leave them to it. Yes, Spencer. Yeah, do have a look. It'd be handy if you can get a referral link sort of going on them. It's I've got a link tree. Should be a link tree link in the most recent video, and there's an interactive brokers link on there. I think you get something reasonably good, and I get something, to be fair. But sort of given the YouTube channel still, is probably never going to be monetized. That's really the only way that I can sort of get a little bit out of YouTube. So that's a bit handy. Kathy Wood's been awfully quiet lately. Oh, she might pop up now that crypto's starting to sort of go the right way. She was hammering down on Coinbase. Don't know what Coinbase are doing today. She may be proven right eventually, even though I wouldn't be bullish on Coinbase. 6%, nothing too special. Don't know what she's been sort of buying at recently. I mean, it hasn't really dropped all that much. 59, So it got down to 30s at the very bottom. I mean, look at some of the miners, what you could have been buying. Or MicroStrategy, maybe. Yeah, not sure I see Coinbase as anything particularly special, even though I do use them. Right, so I will call it a day, I think. Oh, any WBD thoughts? Is that Warner Bros? Yeah, it's again, not really one that I want to get into. The sort of streaming wars is a little bit too competitive, and sort of, there's about 7 or 8 players now. You sort of, is it Peacock and Amazon Prime, Apple, all the rest of them? It's a bit too much. What about the chap that Bitcoin said would go to 1 million? Oh yeah, Balaji is the what is he, ex CFO of Coinbase, or current CFO of Coinbase. Yeah, he knows he's wrong. I think he's doing it for other reasons. I don't know if he's just throwing away. I think it was $2 million that he's bet on it. But yeah, whether he's got a leveraged bet or something. Some people suggested he could have a 10x leverage bet, and even if it goes up sort of 5,000, 10,000 or something, he could actually be in the green, even paying out $1 million. He'd need a lot of leverage, I suppose, but yeah, I would imagine he's just doing it to sort of pump his fairly large bags, but he knows it won't go to 1 million. MicroStrategy, awful stock, you think? They do have a fair amount of debt still. It's not sort of something that I sort of mentioned in my Clean Spark video. It's not something I would really want to hold, aside from sort of having a fee-free Bitcoin in the ISA, if you like. My little Bitcoin ETF I've got is 2% annual fee, whereas MicroStrategy sort of, they have the risk of debt but no annual fee. But yeah, it's basically just a Bitcoin ETF at this point. I think the sort of underlying business has become irrelevant, basically, compared to the market cap. You're up 178% on Warner Bros. Oh yeah, it's Briscoe in the Discord is sort of very keen on it. Even now, I believe he was sort of in on AT&T before they split, and yeah, he was very keen. If you're not in the Discord, do join up there. It's free, and it's not mine. It's Paul Briscoe's one, but I'm a moderator in there. So much debt. Yeah, exactly. It's I don't want to be getting in streaming wars with a load of debt behind them. MPW, yes, it's again very popular one on the Discord, but not really one for me. Sort of too much risk of clients going bust from what I understand. I haven't looked into it all that much, but yeah, not really one for me. Link to the Discord. I would say either just go on Paul Briscoe. I think I may have put one in the CleanSpark video yesterday, actually. If not, I would say just go on Paul Briscoe's latest video, and his link should be in his description, and you'll see me in there. Light. What is light? Lumentum. Are we talking Lumentum Holdings? What do they even do? Optical and photonic products. Optical communications and commercial lasers. Yeah, not sure about that. Forward PE of 10, I suppose, for selling lasers. Not too bad. And a reasonably good debt profile, I suppose. Not all that bad. But yeah, I don't really know about the lasers market. Right, now, I really do have to go. So, thank you very much, guys, for turning up. And good to see you as always. We'll have to do this again. Hopefully not in 6 months again, or however long it's been. But yeah, I'll catch up soon.